Okay, we are ready to talk about part 10, hanging your gourds. This is the last part of the tutorial. Thanks for sticking with it. This is the fun part. This is where we get to hang these outside and watch or hope that we see some nesting pairs choose our gourds as nest sites. So how do we maximize that happening? There are a lot of things to consider and a lot of issues that you may encounter. I'm going to try to go over them quickly. Most of it's going to depend on where you're at and the type of birds you're trying to attract. So when and where, okay, the main issues, when do you put these outside and where do you put them? So again, it's going to depend on the bird. So one good website, let me pull up the main page, it's called nestwatch.org, okay? I have it here on the outline that we're going to follow. So here's the main page. If you go to the tab called Learn, and you go down under Features, there is a hyperlink called Right Bird, Right House. Click on that. That's where we're going to find all of the information we need for this purpose. So there's a drop-down menu. It's interactive. You pick on your region. I'm in the Northeast in Virginia, so I picked Northeast. I have some woodlands by me, so I'm going to say open woodland. If you have different habitats, you choose those separately. So then you click results. 18 birds pop up, okay? So let's focus on one bird so we can see what we're trying to find. There's the eastern bluebird. Right to the right at the bottom of the photo, you see a hyperlink called See This Plan. Click on that. Okay, the top of this page is something we don't care about. You're going to be able to put in your email address and they'll send you plans for a wooden birdhouse for a bluebird. We don't care about that because we have our birdhouse. You go down, okay, it'll say nesting habitat, grassland, open woodland. So, you want to put these in a field, or open woods, or in woods on a tree facing the field, okay? The other great thing is no nesting period. So as to when to put these out, the bluebirds start coming in mid-February, so you want to get them in or get them out a little before, so first part of February. In regards to me, I have bluebirds around here. It's mid-March right now. Early February, I actually saw a large group of bluebirds come in. They were in my backyard for a little bit. Two males were fighting over a female. I didn't have my birdhouses out yet, unfortunately. And the reason you want to put them out early so as the bluebirds start coming in from wherever they migrated from, they start seeing their options for housing. And because when they pair up, they're going to try to find fairly soon thereafter a cavity in which to make a nest, and hopefully that cavity is your birdhouse gourd, okay? So that's when. Now where, okay? So there are other websites you can look at where, in a field, on a fence line, somewhere open, okay? As to height and spacing and direction, this is a really good website. It's going to say nest height 4 to 6 feet for the bluebird, spacing 300 feet for two bluebird gourds or houses, and the entry hole, bluebirds like it facing east. Now these are all sweet spots and ideals that you should strive for, but if your house is at 6.5 feet, or you have to space them 200 feet, or the entry hole has to be for logistical, whatever reasons, is facing more north or south and east, then that's not the end of the world. These bluebirds and birds in general obviously are not robots programmed to only go for these certain things. These are ideals, and if they have the options, they will try to go for these ideals, okay? And your birdhouse cannot be too far out of the bounds of these, okay? So if you put this at 20 feet, that's way too far. If this is facing directly west into the wind, that's probably not good at all. So try to follow these suggestions as closely as possible. As to other information, your local Audubon Society, state or local, Your state university's agricultural or ornithology department may put something out on the nesting birds and where to put the boxes or gourds or whatever the cavity is. There are some sites that are specific to certain birds, okay? Let's just go over the bluebird since we're talking about it. So cialis.org, that's the next hyperlink on the outline there. And if we go to Cialis, that is only bluebird focused, okay? So everything you want to know about bluebirds. Let's see. A tip in regards to hanging is color. You want to put your light colored gourds in areas that are going to get hit by the sun, okay? Because a light color will reduce the heat on the inside. It will reduce the amount of heat and energy absorbed by the gourd, okay? So in the summertime when this is filled with chicks and adults or the female sitting on the eggs, this thing can get pretty hot if it's directly in the sun and you have a dark color. So light color in the sun, dark color under a tree in the woods, okay, or under an overhang where it's going to be mostly in the shade, okay. I have a 2.5-inch hole there. I think I'm going to try. It's for a northern flicker woodpecker, I believe. So I'm going to try that out this year in the woods. So that's why that's brown. It's going to be look a little better in the woods by the leaves, by the tree bark, and blend in pretty well. So tools, again, it depends how you hang these, where you hang these, string, wire, zip ties, bungee cords, maybe you have a metal pole or fence post or whatever, free hanging or static. The other bird that is pretty popular, especially with birdhouses, and you'll find a lot of information just focused on this bird, is the purple martin. So there's a photo of one. The males are purple. Let me find. So there is a photo of purple martin houses. These are actually plastic, but they're made to look like gourds. So Native Americans actually started attracting purple martins with birdhouse gourds, okay? And the reason they attract them is because these purple martins eat a huge amount of mosquitoes and other insects. Farmers like these, I had a farmer that I grew up by, he had at least 100 purple martin houses made out of gourds that he grew. So the thing I wanted to mention is that purple martin gourds can be free swinging, okay? Most birds do not like that. So if you're going to put up some purple martin gourds, research that. You need to put a bunch together because purple martins are very social. They like to nest together. Sawdust, that's the next thing I want to talk about. So in my gourds, because these birds are cavity nesters, these gourds are replacing or acting as surrogates for holes in trees, usually dead trees. So sawdust serves three functions, three purposes. I have some sawdust in here. The sawdust, one, will make it look more natural. So when a bird pops its head in here, it's going to see sawdust. That's going to look like the inside of a cavity of a tree. So the second thing is that we have these cuts and these holes and these plastic loops on the bottom and the silicone on the inside of the lid. This sawdust, about 1 inch or 1.5 inches, is going to cover all that. So when the bird looks in, it's going to see sawdust and none of this stuff down here, okay? The third reason we put it in is the same reason we put it into a rabbit cage or a hamster cage. It's because the sawdust will absorb the feces and urine, and the feces and urine are pretty acidic. It adds another level of protection in addition to the silicone that we added to the inside of the gourd. Now, as to what type of sawdust, I'm going to use pine sawdust. So you can get this stuff really cheap. It's in compressed bags at your local pet store, department stores, pet section, or online. Last year I did have some cedar shavings. They were larger and thicker, and I did use them, and birds did nest in those, but cedar is more expensive, and the one I had was larger. It didn't compact as well. And also there's new research out that birds do actually have a strong sense of smell, and cedar's pretty aromatic, as you know. Although it didn't seem to affect the birds last year, the pine is less aromatic, so I'm going to go with the pine because of the reduced smell and mostly because it's cheaper, okay? So that's a tip. Use sawdust. Now, the other thing, there's competitors, okay? So not only do the birds that you want to nest in here want to nest in here, other things want to nest and use this birdhouse gourd, okay? So there's bees, squirrels, mice, rats, other birds, and I think those are the main ones. So there's a website, again, it's nestwatch.org, controlling competitors and non-natives. So let's go to that website. So this is going to give you a lot of good information. So house wrens will take over other birds' houses because house wrens are pretty aggressive. They will poke holes in other birds' eggs. You need to if you have a house wren problem, make sure you have some, for example, houses that are specific for house wrens, so that keeps them busy and occupied and they don't have to try to find another birdhouse to usurp, okay? Bees are a problem. If nothing is in a birdhouse all summer, bees may sometimes go in there. One thing I want to talk about real quickly here are paper wasps. The European paper wasp, which is black and yellow, I think in the Midwest we call them yellow jackets, but they're really aggressive. Problem is they like to make their nests up in here, which is hard to see and hard to get to, but now we have this lid which we can open and easily remove those in the wintertime. But we don't want those to start or even nest up there in the first place. How do we stop it? Here, nestwatch.org recommends that you coat the inside with oil or liquid soap. I'm going to use oil, cooking oil, corn, canola, whatever, it's something cheap. So I'm going to open this up, or on the next one, I'll open it up. I'll take a wad of paper towels, I'll soak it in the oil, and I'll drop it in the top part here, and with a knife, rub it around, make sure I soak it all. So in addition, I'm going to write oil on the back of each of these that I put oil in to see which ones do or do not have paper wasp. And if it works for the few that I do put oil in, I'll probably do it for all of them. So I haven't tried it yet, but my point is I'm going to try it this year, and that information I got off of nestwatch.org. Mice are usually only a problem if you leave these out in the wintertime. This is a great place for mice to make a nest in the wintertime. Squirrels, let me talk a little bit about that because I have a squirrel problem. A squirrel got to this. You can see they chewed the hole. So squirrels will try to store nuts or make nests out of gourds, especially the bigger they are. If the hole's not big enough, but the cavity's big enough, they'll chew it open so that they can fit inside. So let's see. So there's some options on the screen there. There's a washer that's made to with the inside diameter of the entry hole that you put around the entry hole. So the metal prevents the squirrel from chewing through it. But the problem is all these options, like that one there on the screen, they're all meant to be screwed into a flat-faced wood birdhouse. How do we do that for these? I don't know yet. My option for the squirrel is that I got some antique brass rings. I got antique brass because they're not as shiny. These are called welded O-rings, I believe. But so this is 1.25 inch inside diameter. This is an 1.25 inch hole, entry hole. Somehow I'm going to attach that to the gourd. I don't know how. Same problem. This is flat. The face of the gourd is not. It's curved. So epoxy or Gorilla Glue, I don't know. Maybe I'll heat this up with a torch and bend it over a pipe a little bit so it conforms more. It lays a little flatter. I'm going to try that out this year on a few that I stick in the woods. If these gourds aren't in the woods, if they're in a field or a fence post around your garden in a field, the squirrels aren't going to go out and expose themselves. But any gourds like this is going to be inside the woods. This hole's big enough for a squirrel to get in anyway, so we won't have to worry about that. But you know, if I put something with this size hole in the woods, this size, squirrels are going to try to chew through that. So my solution that I may do is that metal O-ring. We'll see if it works. I may make another video to show you how I did it. Birds, in addition to house wrens, one of the main invasive species that will usurp and take over bird nests, cavity nesting birds, is a house sparrow. So I'm sure you've seen a house sparrow. Right there's a photo of the male. They're almost everywhere in the world. They came over to the United States, North America from England, I think in 1903. Somehow they were brought over. Now they're everywhere. The problem is they're the same size as a lot of the nesting birds like swallows and bluebirds. So they go in through the same size hole. The problem is they're much more aggressive. These house sparrows were actually pinned down and kill bluebirds and swallows and other birds. They will break the eggs, toss the eggs out, toss the young out or force the young out, and then take over the nest. And this happens when there's not enough nest to go around, or if you have a house sparrow invasion, or there's just a lot of house sparrows around. This is one of the reasons the bluebird population is declining, in addition to loss of habitat. If you want to find out how to deal with house sparrows, Cialis is a good website. In addition, there is a bluebird house design that's fairly new within the last 10, 15 years. It's a double hold one. You can see a photo. As you can see, again, that's a bluebird box, wooden box. I haven't seen anyone do it to a gourd. So I guess this is 1.5 inch hole. I guess you could make another 1.5 inch hole on the side here to replicate that 2-hole mansion, which if you're looking for it, it's the Woolwine House Bluebird Trail. I think you can read that. If you Google that, you'll find that site. But apparently they did a 10-year study. They had a lot of success with that 2-hole thing. They had a house sparrow problem, but the bluebirds were able to maintain possession of their house. So the idea is that the males or the bluebirds, adults, can escape through the second hole. Because they're better in flight, they can protect the house and fend off and chase off the house sparrows. So conclusion, if you have a house sparrow problem, maybe on some gourds that are meant to house bluebirds, you know, the 1.5 inch entry hole, maybe try a second 1.5 inch entry hole and see what happens, okay? Now, one more thing in regards to competitors is a perch. Now, some houses will have perches here. Almost every website that you research, and I got a few here on the screen, they say no perch, okay? One site right here, earthdesign.ca, we went over that before. It had something about Vermont natural coatings. But this site was the only one that said anything different, meaning it said perches are good if you have small birdhouses with small holes, 1 to 1.1 inches for chickadees and wrens, then perches are good. And they say that because, for two reasons. Chickadees and wrens apparently love perches. If they have the option of a perch or no perch birdhouse, they will pick the perch almost every time. And the other thing is that because they are small birds, these birdhouses have inch to inch and an eighth holes, which house sparrows and starlings and other invasive species and predatory birds cannot even get their head through. So there's no danger of anything going into that birdhouse. So the conclusion that I've come up with is no perch is needed. The birds just land on the edge, okay? Or they land on a branch if they want to perch, or the ledge if they want to perch, right? But they don't need anything to land on here to go in or out. You know, they're very nimble and agile. So the conclusion, no perch, except maybe small birds such as wrens and chickadees using small houses with 1 1/8 inch entry hole. So larger birds and house sparrows cannot fit, okay? And again, the Cialis.org, if you're a bluebird lover, they say absolutely no perch for bluebird houses, obviously, because the house sparrows like to sit on the perches and it gives them an unfair advantage. And real quick, that's the reason I put these holes up higher. If you put these holes down here at the bottom, the nest is exposed. It's much easier for these invasive species like sparrows and starlings and other birds to reach in and pull out the chicks, okay? If the hole's up here and the nest is down here, they have to work a lot harder, and hopefully the adults in the meantime can fend off that attack, okay? And if you really want to see how nasty these birds are, go to Cialis.org. They have a lot of videos of house sparrows attacking birds and killing birds, okay? It's some of these birds look cute, but when there's not enough nesting cavities in the area, they can get pretty aggressive. So I went over squirrels, okay? That's next in my outline, but I already went over it. My proposed solution. The next thing that we want to talk about is, pull this up, is predators, okay? So these are animals that want to get in and eat the birds, okay? So other birds, snakes, mice, rats, and raccoons. Again, predatory birds, I made the nest up high to prevent or make it harder for predatory birds. If you want to find out some more information specifically about predators in general, there's nestwatch.org again, okay, I recommend. And the page is called Dealing with Predators. It's on nestwatch.org. It's right here on the screen. So they talk about raccoons, domestic cats, snakes, squirrels, fire ants in some regions. And then they talk about some options for guarding against predators, okay? There's stovepipe, there's inverted cones. You can see on the osprey, underneath the osprey nest here. And there's something called Noel guards, like Noel guard. It's basically a cage of galvanized mesh wire that you put on the birdhouse. I think it prevents raccoons and snakes from easily getting in. But the problem with these things, again, and a lot of these items that you attach to birdhouses, is that they're meant for a flat-faced wooden birdhouse. These aren't flat, so like this Noel guard in the photo, maybe you can jerry-rig it to put it on here if you have a raccoon problem or a snake problem. But in regards to snakes, for example, the snakes eat a lot of rodents as well, which also can try to get into these nests and eat the eggs. So sometimes it's a live and let live situation. So that's it. That is all I think I can add to this hanging of the gourds topic. You're going to have to do a lot of research on your own because it's going to be specific to what you want to attract and where you're at. So that's it. Thanks for watching. And if I can take a cheesy comment from someone at the American Gourd Society that emailed me once, I want to say have a gourd day and gourd luck to you in making these and putting these out. And hopefully you'll be rewarded with seeing some nesting pairs use your birdhouses. Thanks a lot.